Hello children, this is Mr. Tan. Today we will be looking at how to read the scale on a beaker or a measuring cup. They are both similar. This is from page 41 of your workbook, where you are asked to draw the level of the liquid in the beaker. So let's get started. Now on my right is a beaker, and you have to know that we call them markings. There are some markings that are labeled. So these markings are labeled, while there are some markings that are not labeled. This is very often the case because if we were to label every single marking, you will not have a lot of space and it will look very, very cluttered. And so that's why there are some markings that are labeled and some markings that are not labeled. So the difficulty in reading the scale is really finding out what are the markings. How should we read the markings that are not labeled? Okay? So the first step to solving questions like this is to work out the gaps. Small gaps. Work out the small gaps. How do we do that? Simply look at any two markings that are close to each other. For example, 500 ml and 400 ml. The difference 500 ml 500 ml minus 400 ml is 100 ml, and that is the difference. Next, there is 2 units. So this is 100 ml. But if we were to note, Hello children, this is Mr. Tan. Today we'll be looking at how to read the scale on a measuring cup, or also known as a beaker. Alright, let's get started. Now, first of all, I have a beaker on my right, and we need to know that this is called a marking. Now, you will notice that some markings, like this one, and this one, and this one, are labeled with the volume. This means if there is a water level at this length, that would be 400 milliliters. And that's very easy to see because it just tells you the volume at that marking. But there are also some markings like this one, and this one, and this one that are not labeled. Not labeled. And this is really the more difficult part of solving questions like this, to find out what are the volumes at the markings that are not labeled. Alright? And why is that so? It's simply because if we were to label everything, there would not be space on the beaker to write all the numbers. And it will look very, very cluttered. It might even be hard to see. But we can work it out. So to solve questions like this, to find out what is this, and what is this, and what is this, we simply need to do a few steps. Number one, work out the small gaps. So, how do we work out the small gaps? Let's look at any two. Just pick any two. For example, 200 and 100 because they're small numbers. Alright? And find the difference. 200 ml minus 100 ml is 100 ml, and this is the difference. This means from here all the way to this level, and there is 100 ml. You will find that it is the same throughout because that's the way your beakers are designed. Then now the question is, how many steps make up 100 ml? You're right, answer is 2. 2 steps. If 2 steps and each step is the same, we can call them 2 units. 2 units. Two units equals to, this is not so easy to use, huh? So 1 unit or 1 gap equals to 100 divided by 2, that is 50 ml. So every time you go up, we add 50. Every time you go up, you add 50 ml. 50 ml. Okay? So, let's remove all these. If I were to ask you, how do I find this amount? How do I draw this amount in my beaker? 250 ml is 200 ml plus 50 ml. That is 200 plus 50. So this will be the water level. 250 ml. Alright, let's try another example. Here I have another beaker. But look, please do not think that this is again plus 50, because we cannot assume that. Alright? We have to, number one, again, work out small gaps. So again, let's look at any two. Let's pick this two for now. 60 ml and 40 ml. 60 ml minus 40 ml equals to 20 ml. How many steps make up 20 ml? 1, 2. 2 steps again. You realize that for many beakers, you will not go to funny numbers like 3 steps or 7 steps or 9 steps, this kind of thing. Okay? So if 2 units equals to 20 milliliters this time, 1 unit equals to 20 divided by 2 equals to 10 milliliters. There are really no shortcuts for this. We cannot assume or try to guess each gap. There is no fixed number. Okay? So we have to work it out using division. So each step is 10 milliliters. So to find 30 milliliters, that is the closest is 20 milliliter plus 10 milliliter. And that will be 20 plus 10, and this is 30 milliliters. Now let's look at another kind of beaker. We have to draw the level of liquid in the beaker again, and now we need 400 milliliters. When you look over here, our first step to solve this question is still to work out the small gaps. But the markings that are labeled are much further apart now. This and this. Let's find the difference first. 1 liter minus away 500 milliliter. Do you know how to solve this? Very simply. Let's give myself more space. 1 liter, minus 500 milliliters is equals to 1000 milliliters. We're doing the conversion here. Minus which is equals to 500 milliliters. So this big jump is 500 milliliters, and that's the difference. Now, how many steps does it take? How many steps make up this 500 milliliters? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 units equals to 500 milliliter. So 1 unit, which is 1 gap, will be 500 divided by 5 equals to 100 milliliters. So each of this, you are adding 100 milliliters, 100 milliliters, in 100 milliliters, and so on and so forth. So it's not that difficult to find out what is 400 milliliters. We could either count upwards 100, 200, 300, 400, or we can count backwards 500, 400. And we know that this is the water level. Next, let's look at another beaker. Again, we need to find the water level at 400 milliliters, right? Again, let's work out the small gaps from what is known from the labeled markings. So 500 minus 250 is equals to 250 milliliters, and that's the difference again. We always find a difference, then divide by the number of gaps, right? So how many gaps? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, it'd be at 5. So 5, in this case, 5 units equals to 250 milliliters. So 1 unit will be equals to 250 divided by 5 equals to 50 milliliters. Alright, so let's count in 50s to reach 400 milliliters. Ready? Let's go. 250, 300, 350, 400. And 400 is the answer that we want. This is 400 milliliters. I forgot to add the units. And this is the water level. So I hope that this was helpful. Please remember, there are only 2 steps involved. Number 1, find the difference, work out the small gaps. Or we need to work out the small gaps. 2 steps involved in working out the small gaps. Number 1, find the difference. Number 2, divide by the number of gaps. Okay, so please check your answers and see whether you managed to do them correctly. If not, please do your corrections or change your answers and try them again. Alright, have a good day learning. Goodbye.